Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. Yes, Happy New Year 2023. Can you believe it? I think I've been doing this for like 5 years. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. We're in a new year. The Investigator Games is still going. Can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, and for those who are new to the channel, welcome, new year, welcome to the game. What is the Investigator Games? Well, it's like the Hunger Games. That's getting a bit old too. What's the Hunger Games? That's something from the distant past. It's like the Squid Games. Yeah, each investigator goes true solo through a scenario. And in Season 1, that is The Gathering. And in Season 2, we are here in the Midnight Masks. And we see how they go. And depending on how they go, they end up in a league table like this one. Yes, and we can see we have everybody from top to bottom. And we can see we have two reigning champions at the moment with their carryover points from The Gathering. And the top three there, of course. We've got Leo, we've got Monterey, and Roland at the top. Followed by Ash Campete at number 4. Interesting that Leo and Monterey are at the top because they're kind of interesting from a thematic perspective. They're sort of similar. They're sort of adventurers in that sense. But yeah, those are the top 3. Some are not surprising, I guess. The reason that Leo and Monterey are at the top is because they were able to get quite a significant amount of help from their friend Leo DeLuca. Roland Banks has done very well because, as you see, he's very efficient at getting clues and defeating enemies at the same time. And then, of course, Ash Campete, a perennial favourite, is just a great all-rounder for true solo. And that's the thing I would say is that, of course, this league table, of course, it depends on how these investigators do on the day. It's like a sport. Sometimes they do better than others just because they do. But also this more reflects true solo. And so, as we would expect, some investigators are just naturally better true solo than others. So it's not surprisingly that Leo, Monterey, Roland, Ash Campete in particular are up there at the top, because I think they work pretty well in a true solo kind of context. Way down the bottom we have Calvin, obviously pretty hard to play true solo. Jim Culver is also down there, as is Carolyn Fern. So yeah, and Patrice, they didn't do well. They didn't do well in the Midnight Masks, which is quite a punishing scenario to do. So there we go. There's the league table as it currently stands now. Spoilers, if you are new to Arkham Horror, the card game, you've never played before, please seek out introductory videos. I'm assuming you know how to play a little bit. If you haven't played the Midnight Masks before, ditto, I would play that first. If you have played the Midnight Masks, shout out to my in-depth video that I did on the Midnight Masks, covering everything: lore, story, gameplay, strategy. Myself and a whole lot of content creators pitched in and their strategies and ideas about how to play the Midnight Masks. It's a fantastic scenario. It is forever perennially challenging no matter what. It's a good way to test out decks. So if you create a new deck and you want to see whether it can, you want to stress test it, then I'd say that the Midnight Masks is a great way to stress test a new deck and see how it goes. So there we go. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we'll go through Norman's stats. I'm not going to go through all of his cards this time because I did that in Season 1, but I will share with you what I changed, and we will quickly look at that, and then we will wait for the horn to go, and then we can start this scenario in that way. So, yeah, so Norman Withers is a seeker, although, like all Edge of the Earth investigators, that's kind of a bit of a ruse. He's not really a seeker. He's kind of a seeker, but he's also a mystic, as we will see. But he's a seeker, astronomer, miskatonic traded. And if we have a look at his stat line, we can see a couple of things. First of all, Norman is not really set up, I would say, particularly as a true solo investigator. His fight and evade are pretty low, although having said that, he can use spells, I suppose. So I suppose, in that context, he could work okay as a true solo investigator. But I don't think he's a popular choice for true solo, I wouldn't say. For those reasons, and also the fact that his physical strength is on the lowish side as well. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. So yes, he evasion very low at 1, fight at 2, so really kind of minimal there. And then we can see a really robust willpower and intellect. So pretty good from an intellect perspective, which means he has no problem getting clues. Willpower means that he can, run some spells, which can offset the fact that he can't really evade or fight particularly well. So whilst you might not need the spells for things to get clues, like Sixth Sense, what you would want are things like perhaps Shriveling or As You Flame, those sorts of things, offensive spells, or Emissive Relay as evasion spells, particularly in true solo. Obviously in multiplayer, you probably you can focus more on being a clue getter. But yeah, he's really sort of focused on those with their willpower. He shouldn't have too much trouble with the encounter deck either. Now, his special ability is kind of okay. His special ability works best with other cards, and we'll talk about that in a second, because he can work quite well if you can get the synergies going with other cards. But on the face of it, his special ability is not, it's okay, but it's not kind of shooting the lights out. You play with your top card of your deck revealed, and as you can see, the game has set things up that way already. In other words, it automatically shows the top one revealed, which is a rather nice effect that Octagon does. And you can play once per round the top card of your deck as if it were in your hand at -1 resource cost. So essentially, you're running a hand with an extra card in it, which you can play at a discount. It's a nice little effect, but like I said, it really comes into its own when you start synergizing it with other things. To be honest, I have played Norman Withers. I did play him in the Edge of the Earth scenario campaign. I found it a bit too finicky from that perspective. You're constantly sort of manipulating your deck to bring cards to the front or set them aside, and I just found all that a bit too much busy work, and I didn't find it particularly much fun. However, that doesn't mean some people don't like that kind of deck manipulation. If you like that, then you're going to like playing Norman Withers. If you reveal a weakness at the top of your deck, you have to draw it. Okay, fair enough. And your Elder Sign effect is +X. Interesting effect here. You can swap the top card of your deck with a card in your hand. X is the resource cost of the top card of your deck. So you can basically you've got some flexibility there in terms of what you make your Elder Sign effect if you want to do that. Then if we flip Norman Withers over, we can see here his standard deck size. He can take Seeker cards level 0 and Mystic cards level 1 to 5. So, and then neutral cards 0 to 5. And then 5 other Mystic cards at level 0. So he can really only take Seeker cards at that level 0. So yes, he can take your standard kind of Seeker cards, but really what happens over time is that Norman becomes increasingly more of a mystic rather than a seeker in that way. So we'll have a look at his special cards in a second. The stars hold many secrets, and Norman was never one to ignore a mystery. So when 6 stars vanished from the sky, he simply couldn't let it go, not even when his colleagues told him that he was just imagining things. It took him years and the near death of his career, but he eventually found his answers in an ancient tome. It described the stars and the sequence in which they would vanish down to the very date and time. It was a sign, the book said, of the end of everything. It was the harbinger of a great beast that would tear asunder all that man had wrought. Norman isn't sure what he can do to stop the beast from destroying the world, but if the stars hold the answer, he will find it. There we go. So that's Norman in a nutshell. Now, yes. Now, in terms of his deck, so his deck, as it stood in Season 1, was very, very heavy. So just a couple of things. When Norman did Season 1, Edge of the Earth didn't exist. So his starter deck was really based on the base game, which meant there was an awful lot of Seeker cards in there with Holy Rosary and Shriveling. And he only got 4 available experience. He has Leader Chandler as well, though. He resigned in the first season. So he only had 4 available experience because he didn't do very well in the Gathering. So it was kind of hard to know what to do with all of that based on what he had in his starter deck. And just, that's a note, all the investigators in the Investigator Games start with the starter deck, which is the base game. FFG used to actually publish starter decks for the Investigators. I'm not sure that they do that anymore. So now with new Investigators, you can draw from the base game and the campaign, which the Investigator features in terms of a starter deck. Anyway, so this is what Norman Withers had. So what I did was I took out 2 Inquiring Minds because of all of the things, those felt like they were easiest to replace, and I put in an astronomical atlas. Now, the reason I put in the astronomical atlas is because it does synergize with his ability, because you're playing with your top card revealed. So it's a 3-cost asset. It takes up a hand slot. You can exhaust and these are fast actions. You can exhaust the astronomical atlas. Look at the top card of your deck. Well, you know what the top card of your deck is. So the thing is, you can be more strategic about this. If it's not a weakness, attach it face down to the astronomical atlas. So basically, you start putting cards under the astronomical atlas. And then as a fast action, you can commit a card attached to the astronomical atlas to an eligible skill test. If that test succeeds, add that card to your hand instead of discarding it. So the difference is here, you're not discarding the card, so you don't lose it. You're kind of putting it to one side, and then you can commit it. Now, what you want, of course, is you want cards that have the pips on them that you then want to commit to things. So willpower cards are good. The problem with Inquiring Mind is that it's a bit limited. That's why I took it out, because the problem is you need a clue at your location. And particularly in True Solo, you've just got less clues on the board. So you can often find yourself with your hand, with Inquiring Mind in your hand, wanting to use it, but there are no clues. And the last thing you want to be doing in the Midnight Masks is sort of leaving clues around just so you can play Inquiring Mind. So it can be quite a frustrating card if you don't have that happening. So that Astronomical Atlas is a no-brainer. Really, it's one that you definitely want in a Norman Withers deck, because it really makes him really quite good if you've got that on board. I had 1 left. So the other thing is I put something offensive in there. I haven't used this card before. Again, this is from the Edge of the Earth. It's called Brand of Cthugha. It has 6 charges on it. Basically, you can use it to fight. You use willpower as usual instead of strength. You get +1, and you get +1 skill value. So Norman would be running at a 5. If you succeed, you can spend 1 or 2 charges instead of its standard damage. So So in a way, it's quite nice because you can go ahead and fight. If you fail, you don't have to commit any charges, so you're not using up the charges in that way. And then if you do succeed, it's nice because you can do one or two. So for example, that's quite nice in a case where something needs 3 points of damage, so that you're not, essentially sometimes with some commitment cards like Vicious Blow, is that for example, you don't want to use Vicious Blow twice against an enemy and essentially waste the damage. So Brand of Cthulhu is a bit more flexible from that perspective. So I thought pretty good card to put in there. So there we go. So those are the only things. Don't know what you think about that. Just a couple of other things I just want to cover off. Like we said, Leader Chandler is in there, so that's going to help us sort of. But the thing is, we're not really fighting with our fights, so I guess with Lita, we might use her just for minor enemies, but also she's a good soak from that perspective. Now, his special ability or special card is Split the Angle. Yes, it's got your standard kind of 3 icons on the side. This is the alternative to the standard one, which Norman used in the first scenario, so we're going to use this one again. You can reveal the top card of the encounter deck, exhaust Split the Angle, and discard the top card of your deck. Discard the top card of the encounter deck. So what this allows you to do is, first of all, what's your top card, but also it allows you to kind of manipulate what's happening in terms of the encounter deck as well. And that can be really, really helpful, because in the Midnight Masks, there are certain cards, particularly around Doom, that you just don't want to get. So this is a way of sort of managing that quite nicely. Yes, you're losing an action, but it also can mean that you're not like losing massive amounts. So that could be really helpful in that way. Also, you could also use your astronomical atlas, of course, and you could put it under that, and therefore you've got 3 pip for commitment, which is also nice as well. Chronophobia, it's his treachery. His signature treachery again is is one that he had in the first season. It's called Vengeful Hound. It's a weakness enemy, whichever way you want to talk about it. And Vengeful Hound is engaged with you. You can't draw or reveal cards via player card effects, so essentially nerfs his abilities. And basically it's a 2/2/3 creature, so pretty standard, really. So yeah, that's all that is. Okay, so there we go. That's the cards. Let's see how we go. So we're all set up here in Octagon, as I said. Norman is just waiting by the house there, waiting for the horn to go off. I did speak to Norman in the green room prior. He was pretty disappointed with his performance in the first season. He's hoping that he and Lita could make a real difference. However, he's also worried because, of course, the Ghoul Priest is, of course, also going to be potentially guest starring in this one as well, because he didn't defeat the Ghoul Priest. So we'll see how he goes. He's a bit bookish, is the old Norman. Training, not quite a few of the investigators go through some rigorous training, strength skills and weapon skills and that kind of thing. Norman's not really in that camp. He's a bit bookish, so he hasn't been particularly good at keeping up with his keeping up with his training. So I think he's not feeling overly confident, but we will see how he goes. Now, before the horn goes off, let's just read through the agenda in the act deck. Predator or prey, Lita seems convinced of a conspiracy within the city of Arkham. She believes that a secret cult serves the ghouls that live in the crypts beneath the city, and that several of the cult's prominent members are scattered throughout Arkham. As you begin searching for them, you can't shake the feeling that you too are being hunted. Resigned, you don't want to risk taking too long, so you head to safety with the information you've gathered. And uncovering the conspiracy, you have one night to find members of this cult and unveil their plan. The more members of the cult you can find and interrogate before midnight, the better. Investigators can spend 2 clues as an action per group and draw the top card of the cultist deck. Find as many unique cultist enemies as you can and add them to your victory display. If there are 6 unique cultist enemies in the victory display, advance note. All 6 of them are, not all 6 of them are in the cultist deck. So there we go. So we're in Octagon. We'll shuffle up the encounter deck. And well, there it goes. There goes the horn. Norman waves wearily to the crowd, and we are back. We are ready to begin. Season 2, episode 47 of the Investigator Games. Okay, so what do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Well, we need some offensive ways of dealing with things. So shriveling, or the brand of Cthulhu, I think it's called. One of those. We need that kind of thing. Obviously, ways to get clues would be great. It would be great to also get some of our signature cards and that new book that we have in our deck. So all of those things. So let's draw many. Let's draw the 5. Let's see what we get. Here we go. So, okay. Yeah, well, we don't need both of these, Arcane Initiate and William Melson. So I might keep William, and I might throw all of these in. Let's draw 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Oh, there's the astronomical atlas, but it's not going to stay there because we're going to shuffle everything up. Ah, dear. So it would have been nice to get the astronomical atlas. So this is what we're left with. I've got a plan. Okay, that's good for taking out sort of more minor figures. Yeah, and we've got ways of sort of, doing other things. But we've not really got what we need here, so it's not ideal. But we can do some things with this. But the main thing's going to be getting ourselves some sort of offensive spells before the Mass Hunter arrives. So we've got time to do that. So let's get going. So what are we going to do first? Well, first action, I'm going to take a fast action, and I'm just going to play out the magnifying glass for a fast action. Might as well get that out. First action, I'm going to spend 1 and bring out William Melson. So we've got him out. That can be handy. If we get some bad draw from the encounter deck, we can use a clue to essentially cancel it. Okay. Then let's avail ourselves of the facilities. Let's draw a card, deduction obviously, and gain a resource. Yeah, we've got 1 action left. Well, we don't want to play the Arcane Initiate now because we've got William Melson out. So let's get this clue. So we're running at a 6 versus 2. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has, and it's got a -2, which is fine. Place a doom on the nearest cultist enemy, and there aren't any, so that's great, and we get the clue. Okay, so that was our first action. Not bad. We got a fast action magnifying glass. We brought out William Melson. We drew a card, and we got a resource, and then we got ourselves the clue. So we're off to a reasonable start. Get ourselves up to Rivertown next time. So we'll move into the enemy phase, or yes, the enema phase, as I call it. No enemies or enemas to speak of. So we'll move into upkeep. Of course, we get the Arcane Institute. What have we got here? Look at the top 6 cards. Yeah, might do that. Yeah, that might be worthwhile. We might then just draw into a shriveling or something like that. But before we do that, we've got the Mythos phase. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. Hunting Shadow. You must either spend a clue or take 2 damage. Well, I think we take the 2 damage. We don't want to waste time. We don't have time in... we don't have time in the Midnight Masks to mess around, you know, getting clues again and things like that. Okay, investigation phase, 3 actions. On to Norman. So first action, let's move up to Rivertown. Let's flip that card. Yep. Second action, let's go ahead and investigate 1 versus a 6. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. Chaos Bag got -4, but we still succeed and we get the clue. Yep. And then for our final action, I think we throw in those clues and see who we get. Like, we're running fast because, you know, that's probably a good thing to do with Norman. We'll shuffle them up. And we get Victoria Devereaux. Victoria Devereaux, well, we've got 5 resources, so we can get that done pretty quickly. And we've got emergency cash, so that's actually quite good. So I might go ahead and do that next time. We didn't do this, no stone unturned, but we're going to draw it anyway. We just would have been able to do it for a -1 cost. But I just felt that time is of the essence. It's better off to get things done. Enemy phase, there are no enemies except for Victoria, who's just staring at that lovely mask. There. Upkeep. Yeah. Okay, well, I've got a plan. So that's something we can use, you know, when it comes to taking on the Masked Hunter. We just need to have clues on board to really kind of, because we can do kind of 4 points of damage if we've got, you know, enough clues on, which would be very nice. Okay. Let's move in to the Mythos phase. There are now 2 Doom down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it's got Obscuring Fog. Well, Obscuring Fog in Rivertown. Yeah, we don't care about that. That's a bit of a hospital pass there. So that's good. We can just move forward. Okay, so investigation phase, 3 actions. On to Norman. Well, I think the best thing to do is go and get Victoria. Let's do it. So we'll take 2 actions to move up to Northside. And of course, we go through Miskatonic University as well. And Victoria engages us. Hello, Norman. How are you? Oh, and hello, William Melson. What are you here for? You want this lovely shiny skull? Well, in the background, some sort of weird pictures and things. Anyway, and we've got 1 action left, so let's just 5 resources. So let's spend the 5 resources. And we put Victoria Devereaux into the victory display, and the crowd goes wild, and there we go. Our first cultist is done and dusted. Pretty good. Brilliant. Okay, so that was a pretty good round. We just moved up to Northside, spent 5 resources, and we got Victoria Devereaux. Okay, we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies now on the board. Move into upkeep. Of course, I've got a plan. We've got shortcut here. Not really getting those shrivelings and things, which is unfortunate. We've still got time, though. Yep, we've still got time because it's indeed the Mythos phase. So we're halfway through the first agenda. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it's got Crypt Chill. Crypt Chill. Well, I'm just thinking. Yeah. What do we do here? Well, we are a 4. It's a 4 on a 4. We can make that a 6 on a 4. Yeah. Do we use the Arcane Initiate and make it a 7 on a 4? Let's just go 6 on a 4, because worst case, probably lose William and bring out the Arcane Initiate soonish. because then we can maybe find a spell. Anyway, go 6 on a 4. Chaos Bag gives us a -4, so we do not succeed. So yes, we have to either get rid of these two. So I think I get rid of William. We'll put him away. Yes, that was a bit unfortunate. Anyway, so we will move into the investigation phase. 3 actions. On to Norman. So where are we at? So we're halfway through the first agenda. We do have a victory point, but we need to get some more clues. Yeah, that's what we need to do. So there's a couple of things we could do here. We could actually use emergency cash and get ourselves 2 clues just like that. And I'm thinking that's a good idea. So what I might do is I might throw in emergency cash, which gives me 3 clues, use all of the resources of 5, and get 2 clues from the token pool. So we will add those in. So we get 2 clues. So that was our first action. First action to do that, second action to get the 2 clues, and then third action, I think we throw in these 2 clues and see who we get. Let's not waste any time. Let's shuffle up and see who we get. And we get Ruth Turner down in St. Mary's Hospital. Yeah, Ruth Turner's a bit of a challenge for Norman because his evasion is low. So the only way to really deal with Ruth Turner is to fight her, but we're not really in a position to do that at the moment. So that was a bit of an unfortunate draw. But anyway, we know she's there. And yeah, I think the focus now is to think about the Mars Hunter and start to move towards that. And obviously there's ways to get more clues. Like there's a couple of clues here we can get in a victory display. So with using deduction, we can probably do that pretty fast. So we move into the enemy phase, no enemies to speak of. So we move into upkeep. Yeah. So we've got shortcut on board now. So we're now in turn 4. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it has Wings of Darkness. Well, there we go. That's kind of put a kibosh on things a bit, hasn't it? So test 4, well, if you fail, well, we are going to fail this because we only have a 1. We're not going to commit shortcut to it. So I think we go ahead, see what the Chaos Bag says. Oh, that was rude. Ah, dear. So we fail, but we also have to put a doom onto Ruth Turner. So yeah, and we take a damage and a horror. Damage and a horror. Yeah, that was an unfortunate draw, wasn't it? Thinking now maybe we should have kept Melson and gotten rid of the magnifying glass. But anyway, that's where we're at. Okay. So now we are very close. So that this is sort of not great for a whole lot of reasons. We are now very close to the doom tripping over. We if we play the Arcane Initiate, even if we draw the spell card, we won't be able to play it because we've not got the money. I was hoping we'd have a couple more turns to build up our resources. So there's no point if we brought out... Well, we can still bring out the Arcane Initiate, but we can't play I've Got a Plan because we don't have the money unless we take 2 resources and we'll get another resource. So maybe that's the thing to do. Yeah, that's probably the thing to do, is to prepare ourselves. See, the problem with I've Got a Plan, though, is we don't have any clues. So I've Got a Plan is also of no value to us. This has really messed us up. Really quite badly, actually. This has really messed us up because we actually need the clues. Okay. Yeah, we do. Oh, this is really... That really messed us up. So we got a couple of options here. We could shortcut to the graveyard because it's relatively easy to get clues there. We could use deduction to get ourselves to... So our first action would be to use deduction to get ourselves 2 clues. So we would have 2 clues on board. And we would still have 2 actions left. And then we could take 2 resources. So then we would have... Or we could play the Arcane Initiate, take a resource, and then we would have the 3 resources to at least do some damage. Yeah, I think... Or I'm trying to think, the other alternative is... If we play the Arcane Initiate, we get the spell card. Are they both 3? Yeah, I think without the spell card, we're really going to struggle, aren't we? So we could play the Arcane Initiate, and we've got no resources. Then we could exhaust the Arcane Initiate, hopefully draw into a spell. And we've still got 2 actions left. At least we've got some soak. So then we could take an attack of opportunity to bring out a spell, I suppose. Yeah, that probably feels like the best thing to do. Because I think the thing is trying to get clues, then the problem is I've got a plan as a one-off. So that's not going to be enough to kill the Mass Hunter. So what I'm going to do is spend a resource first action and bring out the Arcane Initiate. Put a Doom on the Arcane Initiate, which doesn't matter. Then we will exhaust the Arcane Initiate and look at... So that was just 1 action. We've still got 2 actions left. I'll just put them here. We'll look at the top 3 cards, see if we get a spell card. 1, 2, 3. We don't get a spell card. So we weren't going to get a spell card anyway. So we can put those in, shuffle up. Okay. Well, actually, Mind Over Matter is better. Because it means we can at least do some damage. So we've still got 2 actions left. What do we do? We could take 2 resources. So then we can at least play I've got a plan, but I've got a plan is useless because we don't have any clues. We could draw and well, we're going to get Mind Over Matter, so that's going to help us fight. But the problem with Mind Over Matter is that we'll do 3 points of damage and then we'll take damage. Well, that's okay. But then we'll need to be able to deal with something else after that. So, so what I might do is I might shortcut to the graveyard. Now, because we've shortcutted to the graveyard, I think we have to test 3 versus 4. 3 versus 4. I'm just going to go ahead and test that. Let's see. Hopefully we get it. No, we don't. So we take 2 horror. So, okay, we'll take the horror. And then what we'll do is we will investigate with deduction. And Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we succeed, so we get both clues. And we get a victory point, and the crowd goes wild. Yes, and we've got 1 action left. We could draw a card. We could take a resource. We could even play our 2 clues and see who we get. Because if we get Herman Collins, then we could get another victory point. I'm trying to kind of maximize my victory points because I'm feeling that we are not going to be able to kill or evade the Masked Hunter at the moment. Or we take a resource, because then we'll have 1. We need at least 1 resource for this, and it's possible that we could get a spell. So let's take a resource. Let's play it conservatively and take a resource. Okay, so move into, that was the investigation phase. Let's move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to worry about, so we move into upkeep. Look at that. We get Shriveling. Wow. So we can actually play Shriveling from the deck at a -1. So we can get Shriveling onto the board. So that could work, maybe. All right, let's move into the Mythos phase. There are now 5 Doom on here. So that goes to 0. Let's flip this. And yes, there he is. Oh, hello, Norman. Oh, dear. Oh, you've got the Arcane Initiate with you. How nice. Is she going to fight for you? Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, things are looking bad, and that's not the end of it. We've got to draw from the encounter deck, and the encounter deck gives us a Acolyte. Oh, wow. You know what? I'm not going to worry about the Doom, I think. Although... Put the Acolyte here with the Doom. Whatever, we're probably not going to survive anyway. All right. Let's move in to the investigation phase. Oh, hold on, before we do that. Time is running short. It certainly is. Now, what are we going to do with poor old Norman here? 3 actions. Okay, we've got a few options. So, yes, we could play out Shriveling for 2. But we would take an attack of opportunity, obviously, to do that. So we would obviously kill the Arcane Initiate and take a damage to do that. Oof. But then we would have the Shriveling on board. So we'd be fighting at a 4 versus a 4. Not great odds, are they? The other alternative is we play Mind Over Matter at fast. So then we would have 3 actions, 3 opportunities to fight the Masked Hunter at a 5 instead of a 4. So yeah, we could do that. But that would only do us 3 points of damage out of 6. The other alternative is we could try and evade the Masked Hunter with Mind Over Matter, 2 on 2. I don't like those odds. So it really is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because I guess 3 points of damage is good, and we could draw into another Mind Over Matter, possibly. Because with Shriveling, it's 4 on 4. Now, we've got no stone unturned, which would give us a 5 on a 4, but chances are we're not. I mean, if we're lucky, we might hit one of the 3 times. Whereas with mind over matter, we're much more likely to succeed. Oh, this is so tough. Yeah, I think I pay 1 and bring out the mind over matter, so that's a fast play. So we are now using our intellect of 5 versus 4. So we're 1 up. Let's make that I'm going to have to ration these out, a 6 versus a 4. A 6 versus a 4. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. It indeed succeeds, 6 versus 4. So we put a damage, 1 damage, and also a doom, unfortunately, for that. That's the 3rd cultist draw. There's been a lot of cultist draws. Let's go ahead and do it again. 2 up, 6 versus 4. We draw another cultist. I can't believe it. This is just crazy town. Wow. Okay, 2 of each. And we will do it again. Let's see how we do. 0. Wow. Ow! So, yeah, we certainly did our 3 points of damage. Unfortunately, that's only half what we need to do, but it's better than a kick in the pants. And in the enemy phase, unfortunately, we do damage, so we will get rid of the Arcane Initiate, and we will take a damage. Ouch. And then we will move into... you're kidding, Chronophobia. No, not now. Okay, well, we can take Direct Horror. I think we're done. I don't think we can survive from here. Okay, let's see what the encounter deck has. False lead, if you have no clues. If you have 1 or more clues, test 4. Oh no. Oh no. Which means we won't get this victory point if we fail this. So we are a 5 versus a 4. We're 1 up. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. +1, thank goodness. So there we go. So here we are in the investigation phase. 3 actions, on to Norman. Well, we really are in a pickle here, aren't we? Because if we do an attack, if we try to bring out the shriveling, well, we can't. We can't even afford it. So we'd be fighting a 2 on a 4. There's only one option now, is that we get a +1 or a on evasion. That's all that's left for us, I think. Let's go ahead then. 1 versus a 2 on evasion. Chaos Bag gives us a -1. So we miss, we'll fail. We'll try and evade again. Fail. Last chance. Oh, 1 versus 2. We don't succeed. And in the enemy phase, we take another 2 points of damage, and we take a physical. Oh dear, that was going fairly well for Norman, and then unfortunately we got we circumstances kind of just really messed us up. We got we got a card which sent us back to Rivertown. We took some damage from that, but also it put a doom onto Ruth Turner, which really accelerated the Mass Hunter getting to us, and that meant that we didn't have time to prepare. as much as we wanted. So everything just went wrong, and then from there it was just really difficult. So anyway, we ended up with 2 victory points in turn 7. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Now, next time we will be returning, yes, to Season 1 of the Investigator Games with the new batch of Scarlet Keys Investigators, and I'm very much looking forward to taking them through the gathering. But until then, I'm Crowby Terror 8. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.